ziua și bine v-am găsit! Sunt Ioana Matei, jurnalist Business Magazine și împreună cu Cristian Hostiuc, directorul editorial al ziarului financiar și Business Magazine, vom fi gazdele celui mai nou invitat al Meet the CEO, evenimentul tradițional al Business Magazine, prin care vrem să facilităm dialogul cu cei mai importanți manageri din România. Fie fizic, în cadrul unei mese rotunde, fie printr-un interviu scris în revistă, fie printr-o transmisiune live online, varianta pe care am ales-o astăzi. Alături de mine se află, ca de obicei, Cristian Hostiuc, directorul editorial al ziarului financiar și Business Magazine. Bună seara!
Ioana, bună! Hai să vedem cum ne descurcăm în acest format. Ar fi preferat să avem Meet the CEO în mod tradițional în întâlnirea cu cititorii noștri, dar până când lucrurile se vor mai liniști cu COVID-ul, vom încerca să fim gazde bune și pentru invitatul de astăzi.
Cu siguranță așa este, cu siguranță vom avea acces la mult mai mulți oameni prin acest format, iar invitatul pe care vi-l aducem de această dată în fața ecranelor este noul CEO al companiei Societe, Generale Global Solution Center în România, rol din care conduce o echipă de peste 2100 de experți și specialiști și deservește 35 de țări pentru toate liniile de business majore ale Societe Generale. Îl avem așadar alături pe Philippe Gabulon, director general al Societe Generale Global Solution Center în România. Hello, thank you for being here.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good.
You started this new position since August.
Yes.
Okay. How is Bucharest in 4 months?
In 4 months, it was very hot at first because it was when I arrived even a little before, but on holiday for 2 weeks. And it was extremely hot, hotter than India. I was in India, and
seriously?
Incredibly enough, it was hotter here. No, after it was so I took time to visit a little bit Bucharest, and it was very nice to enjoy. I love wines, I love food, and it was nice to be again with this variety of wine here in Europe, and nice food that I enjoyed.
Okay, this story is about your professional career. It's not about the Societe Generale Service Center. Okay, it's you are in 60s right now. Okay,
Yeah.
you are a long career. You have 30 years on with Societe Generale, a long time.
Yes.
A very, very long time.
Indeed.
Okay, how comes that you come to Bucharest?
So I'm part of. I was in India, the deputy CEO of a shared service center, which is our biggest shared service center, and it's a center that since a couple of years already work closely with that one that we have here in Romania, and we do a certain number of things together, there was someone in charge before me here, and when this person moved, I thought, and the CEO of these two entities, Sunil Shah, we thought it was interesting to come here to accelerate a bit our common roadmap, the thing that we do together. And also it was for me appealing because I had worked a lot with people here, but without being here, especially in the context of COVID, I didn't travel. So it was also something I wanted to do from a personal perspective.
Okay, it was a surprise this this position.
Not really. It was one of the natural next position I could have. So it was not locked, but it was not a complete surprise either.
So basically this was your first step in Europe after almost 20 years spent in Asia?
Not really. I started in Paris at the very beginning.
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
Well, in 90s, yeah?
Yes. A little bit before, at the end of, I think it was 87, yeah.
87?
Yeah, 87. So I started
when in Romania
Paris.
Was a communist period.
Still, yes. Another, yes. No, and so I started there, and actually, and I was doing IT. I'm mostly an IT person. I started there, but after a couple of years, and I'm working on the global market activities, after a couple of years, by pure chance in a way, there was a full team in Tokyo who went to JP Morgan actually, and DIT, etc., and a part of the trading people. And I was asked if I was interested to go to do the IT part of it. And for two reasons, a professional reason, it was interesting, but also a personal reason. Asia was, a continent, I would say, if I may call it a continent. I wanted to explore, so I accepted. And I started being in Asia, and actually, since that point of time, I spent more than 20 years accumulated in Asia.
What did you find there? How was the transition from Paris? I guess Paris was fabulous back then, like it is now.
Yeah.
And how was that first change for you? It was a big transition in terms of culture, I guess.
Yeah, it was. It was a big transition. But Paris was fabulous. But it's always the case with your own country. It may look fabulous when you see it from distance or when you come to see it. When you live in it, you start not looking at it, okay. As always. By contrast, I felt the same thing with Japan. I say, oh, it looks fabulous, it looks interesting, mysterious, etc. There was an aesthetic that I was liking in Japan, a kind of pure aesthetic of things. So that was, I would say, the cultural aspect, which was vivid. And from a life perspective, everything is different. It's simple. Absolutely everything is different. I think there's no common ground in Japan with whatever countries in the world. Everything is surprising at first, and everything is nice as well, because Japanese people, first, to a certain extent, they like French culture as well, so they have at least a curiosity, a certain interest in people coming from France. And also they are very polite, so I would say it's a smooth, when you work in Japan, it's pretty smooth, people are nice to you. It's not a difficult landing, I would say. So that was the very beginning, and it was very pleasant. And I love Japanese food, so to come back to food, and that was fabulous, this part.
Okay, but when you start your studies,
yeah.
Okay, who sent you at the university?
And good question. To share a little, I would say, pre-study things, I wanted to be a fashion photographer, actually. Not photographer. At all what I do currently.
Okay.
And my parents convinced me that, it's it's creative, but at the same time it's a risky business.
So you want to become a photographer for Vogue, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. I actually met the art director of Vogue at some stage, and so they convinced me, you need to do serious, serious study, etc., and have a job which you can live upon. So that's what I did. So I became an engineer because of this. To a certain extent, I don't regret it, because having done a bit of photography, and not to the extent I wanted, there's a nice part in it, which is the creativity, etc. Do I really like, the fashion world or probably no. I don't like the glitter of this. I like the art part of it, but not a part of it. So afterwards, it was not a deal breaker. I did photo for my pleasure, and a bit professionally, but I did commercial photography, not fashion photography.
Okay, so you go to the university?
Yes.
Okay. You'll become an engineer?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
When it's so-called grandes écoles, it's at the same level that university. It's a special system in France that actually doesn't exist elsewhere. It was invented by Napoleon. It's an old thing, which is equivalent to some universities in US, for example.
Okay. After you finish your studies, what was your thinking? What do you want to do at that time? At
that time, there was another thing happening to me. I wanted initially, when I did this engineering school, to build bridges or things like this, large things. And it happened that I had a ski accident just the last year, at the beginning of the last year of the school. And it becomes difficult, you know, because you need to, when you build these kind of things, you need to visit these things, you need to go through it, etc., which was very difficult with my legs. So I moved, I changed actually, and I did IT because of my condition at this point of time, which after was fixed. But I discovered a more IT world, and that's how I came out of this school. I was an IT person basically, and I started doing a number of missions. I went to an interesting company who was offering to people certain freedom. It was a consulting company, but which was in a way auto-managed. So that if you generate money for the company, you are free to invest this money in training, in whatever. You are free also to stop working for a while. That was a very interesting system, and that was what appealing to me.
What is the name of the company?
It was called Infi. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. It was a pretty small company. And I did a certain number of consulting missions, and one was in Societe, and that was the beginning.
What was the first one?
Yeah.
In Societe.
Yeah.
And the first salary, if I may, do you remember?
We don't ask for the salary right now, but the first salary.
First salary, I think it was around 15,000 euro in this area.
Per year, you're saying?
Yeah.
15,000 euro.
Yeah.
Euro per year. Okay, in Romanian, my first salary was, I think, $90 per month. So $900, $1,000 per month. In 1990, on a year, $1,000 on a year. It was in 1993.
And this was, I think it was, because I joined Societe in 87 about, and this was 85, I think.
Okay,
Roughly,
85.
Yeah, it was before. Yeah.
Okay.
And do you remember what you bought with your first money?
I mean, that didn't bought it just like this, but I think it contributed to my first car, which was a Peugeot 205 diesel, if I recall.
Peugeot, okay. Not a Dacia.
What do you like in IT? Because it was a new word.
It was. Actually, I discovered it because I did IT because I couldn't do, the bridges or this kind of thing. And I actually discovered IT on the job because I learned IT in the school, but I still at this point didn't figure yet what I really liked in it. I did it because it was a good option in the school. So I said, okay, it's a good option. I'm going to have a work. I'm in a job after. And that's more on the job that I actually discovered what you could do with IT. And unfortunately or fortunately, what I did first was not really appealing to me because it was, once again, by pure chance, I had only projects in the weaponry industry. And I was not convinced by the weaponry industry, so after a while I said, I need a change, it's always the weaponry industry. So it was interesting because it was super technical, etc. From this perspective. I say I need to do something which is not in the weaponry industry, and that's how I actually had a mission with Societe Generale on the global book of the option division, and this I liked it actually. Because of the purpose, because we were calculating options, prices, etc. And this I could relate to mathematics actually. So it was not IT, pure IT that I like, but IT applied to mathematics in that very example.
Okay, a few people know that Societe Generale have a good people in mathematics because the French have good people in mathematics. In mathematics, I think the people start with the structured products that come with subprime in 2008 for the big
Yes, they didn't started with this actually. The origin of derivatives was more, if we come to some very origin, for example, covering the risk of having bad weather, and then your cereals or things like this going to have a bad quality and a low cost, and you want to cover yourself by this. I would say the subprime came after a while. It was already in a kind of pretty sophisticated stage, because what happened in the subprime is that you, in a way, think, because you are, in a way, merging many risks, that the overall risk is contained. Whereas, actually, if all the part of what you have invested in is going in the same way, it's not going to work. But it was already at a more sophisticated part of it, whereas at the very beginning, you want to do a transaction in the future, for example, on currency options, you want to fix the price, or protect you against the variation of price. These simple things was really the beginning, how you cover yourself from something that will fluctuate, but without a very complex mechanism.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you know very well these derivatives and option and this word.
No, I mean I know a bit because I've worked 20 years in it in a way. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember your first who was your first boss, and what kind of recommendation give to you that you remember?
Yes, actually, not my first boss. I mean, my first boss, but the first boss that meant something for me. Yeah, It was actually Jean-Pierre Mustier who became afterwards the CEO of the investment bank, the corporate and investment bank, and after the CEO of Unicredit. He has left Unicredit. Exactly.
So Mustier was your boss.
Exactly. And one thing which has nothing to do with finance, etc., before going to Japan, it's him who offered me the position in Japan. And we had a lunch, and he said to me, because he did Polytechnic, which is a military but also engineering school, and as an application of it, rather than doing another glamorous school in France, he went in mining in South Africa, which was very hardcore. And he told me, I have a way of working which is militarian, and I admit it, and I will not change. And can you work with this? And actually it made me thought, it was not an advice, but made me thought, is it something difficult? And in fact, no. Working with discipline, if we summarize it, discipline for me, and that's something I learned from him, is a simplification.
Of your life.
Of your life, of your work at some stage.
But it's a nightmare for the people who work for you.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because there are things, you think, I will do it tomorrow, or this, or this, or this. And sometimes it's so simpler to just do it. And that element of discipline, but I would say well-thought discipline, not a brutal discipline, as a simplification, was probably the big learning of Jean-Pierre.
Okay.
I was thinking about, you said, and do you think you have kept this style of management, this military style of management after you took his advice?
I never had a military style of management. He had, not me. What I have kept is that sometimes we debate for hours on something where we know we're not going to change basically what we have to do. And I think, it's completely useless. And once again, we have to do it. So let's do it, and that's it. Whereas a military thing, you will do everything like this, which is not my style at all. But when there's no other choice, when we need to execute, let's just do it.
Why are we talking
about it? It was
a
simplification, yes. So I've kept just this part, not the military attitude as a whole.
And after your first job, what were the next steps?
After
The important ones.
Yeah, after and that's a personal and professional step, is that where I was proposed this job in Japan, moved to Japan, and that was actually the first time I really moved and stay away from France for a long time. That I speak something different than French. Of course, I've learned English, Latin, whatever, and German actually. But I have learned English, but learning and using English is very different. So I went there, and it was funny. There was English is a good example. There was a guy who was broken, coming from Texas. I couldn't understand a word of what he was telling me. There was another Irish guy working. So I thought I learned English, but you know, when you're in front of people with very strong, specific English, it's difficult. But so there was the change of life, being away, being completely there was no, for me, a reference in Japan. You expect something with your European mind, and what happened is different in Japan. Very often people will do something because of another context, or another I would say teaching when they were young, and they behave differently. So all this was for me fantastic. It was a very rich experience, and I kept this curiosity. Actually, it was my curiosity. I said, I was thinking this in a context. I am in a completely other context, and I've lost my reference to a certain extent, but it's richer. I find this fascinating that it gives you another angle, and it actually has driven my life afterwards, which I was looking, and being here is part of it. I was looking at seeing things differently, or living things differently, living with people of another culture, personally or at work, and it has changed completely in me, having an appetite for the differences in a way.
Okay, how comes that you, after the Asia, you stay such a long time in Asia, you didn't come at the headquarters in Paris to Societe Generale?
I came 2 times actually.
2 times.
So it was, I was in Asia overall for more than 20 years, but I came back 2 times. So, and what I did in Paris was very, very interesting, and I don't regret it a single time. One time was for audit, and I was in the deputy head of European audit, and the second time I was leading basically the transformation of the IT of the fixed income, because we were an equity derivatives house mostly, and thanks to IT, there was a huge part of it. We were investing more than 100 million euro of IT every year. And on fixed income, we wanted to have a bit of a similar story. So we wanted to double or triple our investment in IT for fixed income. And I was given this project, which was completely fascinating. So I went back, but with really something I wanted to do, and that was great. So it was each time a very interesting thing, but from a personal perspective, I preferred to live something different.
Okay, Yana.
Which were your biggest challenges when you went to Asia, and how did you overcome them? It's not pretentious, but I think it was easy. In a way, when I arrived in Asia, it was still the bubble. We were working on, the main desk was on Nikkei. We were making a lot of money. So in a way, everything was easy. So it was,
it was an easy commercial life, I would say, for the bank at this point of time. All the banks, by the way, in Japan at this point of time, and it was an interesting, an interesting personal experience. So yes, you know, I don't know. You are somewhere in a street and you cannot say exactly what you want. It can be frustrating at times, but was very little actually. I don't think anything. I wouldn't call this difficult. It would be unfair in a way. It was easy.
Did you receive any offer to go to the rivals or to go to the, let's say, BNP or Crédit Agricole or to other major investment bankers?
So yeah, so I actually the closest I was to leave the group was for Bering.
For
Unfortunately
Bering. Okay.
enough, I didn't.
Okay.
But you know, and I can explain why I've stayed in that group. Is that every about 3 years or so, if I do something, and let's say a project usually in 3 years you are more or less done. Or if you do something else in 3 years, you have understood more or less what you should do, or what you can influence or not, and you do it. And after this, it becomes a little bit of a routine to a certain extent, and I don't like this. So I need this challenge or opportunity to do something a bit different or completely different every 3 years or so. And it was possible in SocGen. So that's why I stayed in SocGen.
So after 3 years you move to another position, other project, other country?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
This was your life?
Yes.
You enjoy it?
Yes.
Okay. What is the challenge here in Romania? In August was the first time when you come here in Romania?
No. I came here, I think, 3 times. So one time as for audit, and 2
for
times.
Audit.
Yeah.
In what year?
Sorry.
In what year?
About 10 years ago. I don't.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
okay.
About. And after I came 2 times, more in the perspective of our collaboration between India and Romania, because our 2 centers work together. So I don't know, for me here, I mentioned it before, it was a very natural transition because we have worked so much during these 2 years together, and even at the beginning of this year, we put our 2 organizations even closer together. We had a Next Impact event where we say from local to global, from both centers. So once again, it was natural. I knew most of the people, of course not all, but most of the people I would work with. And there was an exciting challenge. We said, okay, we work more together, but what does it mean? It's good. I mean, it's a feel-good effect, but beyond this, what is the value we want to extract from this? And the value, for example, you have teams who are working here on a certain number of corporate functions, IT, etc. And in India, we have an innovation team. And this team was not used much here, though it's something which is very easy with our common management to do. And we can engage that team on things which are done here for the group. So there's a number of things like this which are, to a certain extent, easy to transform. We just need to do it and to exploit the fact that we have a very fluid relationship between these 2 centers.
Okay. This center in Romanian, cover 34 market, okay? 34 or
45.
45.
My friend.
How many market you cover from here?
Well, we could. I mean, it's difficult to express it that way, but because we cover indirectly these markets.
Indirectly.
So but we work, and it's probably a better proxy. We work for more than half of the business unit or support unit of the group.
Okay, what is your routine? Because a lot of people said, look, I want to be like this CEO, or I want to be like this man, woman, and so on. What is your routine, daily routine for a CEO?
My daily routine. An important thing, I think, for me, and that's the discipline, I come back to the discipline and this learning, is to avoid an invasion of, and it's easy when you work from home. I could work in a way all the time.
Okay.
Okay, I don't do this. So part of this routine is to take care to, at some stage, it can be 7 for example, I stop. And that's it.
Okay.
Except, of course, if there is an urgency or something, someone may call me, but that's okay. But despite this, I wouldn't. I think it's very important to impose a self-discipline, because if I don't function correctly, you know, it's a little bit like in the plane, the example of the plane, when you are teach to basically put the mask first and the mask to the baby after. If the managers of a company and the CEO, it's the same, become dysfunctional because they are too tired, the company becomes dysfunctional. So it's very important to have an hygiene of life, which you can do with this measured time for work. In India and here I've not started fully, but I was doing bicycle, you know, on a trainer inside on a very regular basis, to be in relatively good shape and to be calm and to be open.
Okay.
Because if you start to be overworked, that is very easy, because I can have work all the time. I think the overall value for the company will be lower.
So first of all, to have to be disciplined at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, to put the pen down and say, look, for today it's enough.
Exactly.
Okay, but how many meetings do you have in a day, and how you manage this kind of center? When you come in the morning, okay, at the job, at what indicators you look to see what's happened in company, what was the day before, and what was the week, let's say?
So I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
Because we have a flow of indicators. So it's not in the morning that I will look at the number of indicators. I receive indicators, so that's okay. And we have mechanism to review performance of, performance risk, etc. So an event linked to this, so risk event, an operational issue. This I will receive it in real time. So I don't do this in the morning. In the morning, actually, I usually try to have a little time before entering in a meeting where I can reflect a little bit on, okay, what we're going to do, as you said, this day or maybe this week sometimes. What I need to achieve before, okay, being present in all this element of, and it's essential as I keep time in the evening to stop. In the morning, I actually, in the morning or at some predefined time of the day, I have free time to step back and look at, okay, just on this, maybe, I don't know, I try to reflect.
Okay. What is the difference between the meetings in Romania, in France, and in Asia, at least, or in Japan or India?
It's linked. I mean, Romania, I would say, is very close to France.
Okay, they talk a lot?
Yeah, people like to debate, to talk.
Debate, okay, and no conclusion after the meeting?
It's difficult to reach, exactly.
Okay, it's difficult to reach a conclusion
yes,
in Romania and in France?
Yes.
Okay, and how is the situation in Japan or India?
It's very different, but it's cultural. So in Japan, for example, it's going to be very particular. people don't say no, they nod, they say yes all the time, but it doesn't mean anything. You still
So when
don't
the people
know,
said yes,
and they will wait for the boss to sign of the boss to do whatever and decrypt it before they. So it's very particular, linked to the culture. In India too, it's closer to Japan in a way that, but more relaxed. It's at the end, it's the boss who decides. It's not really.
It's not a debate.
There are debates. There are heated debate, but there's no on the. I would say on the decision process, it's very simple. The boss decides.
It's not democratic.
So it's not the same case in Romania or France?
In Romania and in France, you can speak for hours. Yes, no, it's difficult.
But in the end, someone have to take a decision to say, okay. So it is more difficult here to take a decision than in Japan.
Not really.
Okay.
I don't mind taking decision. In a way, I'm used to it. When I came back actually from Hong Kong to be the head of the DIT for fixed income to run this project. At first, yes, you have this debate, because in Asia people are very, respectful of the hierarchy, usually speaking, and you arrive in Paris, you say, we're going to do this. Oh no, it's difficult. It's impossible. We have tried. So I'm used to it because of this. I've worked in France, so it's not different in a way for me.
In your career for 30 years or more than 30 years, what was the most difficult decision you have to take?
A decision
related to your career or something in your job, to take a decision like a boss?
It's interesting. So, relating to my career, probably my most difficult decision was I decided to stay in Asia. Okay, and I am still, by the way, from a contractual perspective, an employee of Hong Kong.
Okay.
But I decided like 8 years ago or so to become an employee of Hong Kong because my family is from Thailand, and I said I prefer to establish myself in Asia. It makes more sense. So I established myself in Asia, and I spent 6 years in Hong Kong. And we had like most of the bank, European bank later than American bank, to do a lot of remediation for the Fed, for New York State, etc. So, and I was at this point of time the head of audit of Asia, and I was asked to go to actually do this, the remediation of the audit functions for Americas, but mostly for US in that context. And so just to head this audit function and to do this project. And I hesitated because the project was extremely interesting. At the same time, I decided from a personal perspective to establish myself in Asia. And in Hong Kong, you can become a permanent resident after 7 years, and it was 6 years.
Okay.
It was a difficult decision. I decided to go for the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give us 10 recommendations for the young people. For the young people in Romania who, let's say, started their career right now. From your experience, you have a lot of experience,
yes.
Especially in other markets.
Yes.
10, because in the end we'll publish a book about...
Yes. So no, there are some obvious, I don't know, we'll see how we reach 10 or not. First, to be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself. Okay, to yourself.
Because you can learn, to speak better in public, to do a better presentation, etc. But you cannot change who you are. Or it's not effective. Let's take it that way. It's not effective at all. It's better to leverage on what from the strength that you are, rather than trying to correct other things and focus on the things which are less effective in yourself. So the first would be this,
Okay.
for sure.
We are what you are.
Exactly, and let's leverage on what we are good at,
Okay.
which can be a second or a corollary to that one. Another one is to remain curious, because for me curiosity is in a way the seed of development. Without curiosity, you have no interest in things, and you won't progress in a company. You can have opportunities, but you need to jump in it and come back maybe to the next one, which is risk. There's no risk-free businesses. Specifically not a bank. I mean, a bank measures risk, and you take informed decision based on
So
risk.
to take risk or not to take risk?
Exactly, but my message to young, because you have some people who are risk adverse,
Okay.
and actually young people that struck me, in Romania as well, by the way, were completely risk adverse, and you can't have any gain without any risk. It's impossible in life. So if you want to have I would say an inspiring career, you're going to have to take risk.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean this risk needs to be silly. You can measure this risk, but at some stage you need to jump.
Okay, but you don't take the risk to be a fashion photographer at the beginning.
That's correct. That's correct. And I regret it a little bit.
A little bit,
Yes.
not a...
Yes.
Okay, the fourth recommendation.
I think specifically for people who are who want to develop as managers, actually the first can be this one. It's to know what you like, because and then okay, you may want to aspire to be a manager. But if I take this example, you need to like people. You need to like not people per se, but to interact with people.
Okay, so if you want to be a manager, you have to like to interact with the people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or if you want to develop deeply in a specific domain, it's completely okay. You can be an individual contributor and be very recognized, very well paid, even publicly, but it's a different job.
Okay.
And you can't have both very often.
So you cannot be also a good specialist and in the meantime to be a very good manager.
You can up to a certain time or size of organization.
Okay.
Otherwise you will be frustrated by one or the other.
Okay. Okay. Another recommendation.
Another start to be more difficult.
Yeah.
To be transparent, I think there's never any gain in trying to hide things from people, I would say, laterally, above, below. It's always a losing formula. And it relates maybe to another one, which goes maybe to risk to a certain extent, or sentiment. It's you're going to have to take hard decisions if you want to develop.
Okay, you have to take hard decision.
Yes.
When the things, the event come.
So that can be linked. So there are two things. There are decisions which can be linked to an event, as you say, and or to an evolution of strategies, more long term, etc.
Okay.
But at some stage, there are going to be decisions which are hard to take from different perspectives. One could be risk. There's a big risk, but anyway, you have to take the decision. That's one. And if I come to the other, and maybe it's an important one which is different, it's when you have to take hard decisions linked to people. It's sometimes you have people who have a tendency to delay this forever.
Okay.
And usually it's due to someone is not performing in a certain context, okay? And people don't really dare to address this and say, so we have a system, of course, of performance measurements. They're going to say that something needs to be improved. But at the same time, if it doesn't move for 3 years like this, the only way is to change the person from that position. And it's something I've really learned, is that it serves not only the company, but it serves the person. Because nobody likes to be in a situation where the person doesn't perform. People want to be performant and successful. So if they are not, actually even themselves they want to change.
Okay.
And even if they don't recognize it, which is possible, after they may, it was good to change. And now I perform, I feel better, I'm successful, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another recommendation. You have 2 more.
Yes, to be inclusive. Just give you an example. It happened that in New York, my team was constituted by 7 nationalities. And inclusive from that perspective, that can be cultural, that can be from the corporate world. People coming from, let's say, Bank of America or Goldman Sachs will come with a very different culture. And it is useful to have both. Like it is useful to have an Indian man, a black American, a Brazilian in the team, because the team is far, far richer and actually far more performant.
So the recommendation for the young people is when you see people formed by a lot of nationality, okay, to
Could
go
be
there.
nationality or the aspect of diversity, yes.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
And the 10 recommendation?
10-1.
The last one.
Yes. I think it's to, and maybe linked to the COVID, the things we have lived recently, it's to be not overly, but to always try to be empathic. Which doesn't mean, not taking hard decisions. It's 2 different things. But you need, in the empathy, you recognize the emotion of the other.
Okay. Look, if let's say a young people, okay, a young boy and lady come to you and your service center and said, look, Philippe, I want to have a career like you. What can I have to do? What I have to do? Okay.
A bit of what I've said. No, if if
I want to have an international career.
Yeah.
I'm a Romanian, okay. I want to, let's say, to work 3 years in Paris. Go there, from there to London, go to the Berlin, or go to, after that, go to Tokyo, go to New York, or go to Hong Kong. You have an amazing career.
I don't know, but at least it was a pleasant career so far. No, it's there are 2 things. There's an element which is commercial. To be desired, you need to have something to sell.
Okay.
So you need to have a skill, you need to have an impact or a way of doing things that is useful somewhere. And that you can develop. You can develop it in a project, you can develop it leading a team or transforming something. You need to have this and build this. And once you have this, also to be deliberate on what you need, what you want to do.
But at the beginning, in 20, nobody knows what they want
which
to
is
do.
okay, which I completely concur.
Okay.
And that's when I say this, it comes after. At the
Okay.
beginning, you need to build your skills because you have nothing to sell,
Okay.
in a way. But once you have done this, first you would have done a number of things for a couple of years, and you will know better what you want to do in a way. And what you want to do can be very open, but at least, and it's something I've mentioned, it's pretty easy to answer to someone who say, oh, I want to go to New York, for example, if it's a geographical mobility, or I want to work for the capital market activities. If you say this, it may not happen tomorrow, but it's something we can do with time. If you have absolutely no clue, and that's the difference between what you say. If you have no clue, it becomes difficult, because you cannot say, oh, I want a change, but I wait for that change. That doesn't work. You need to impact things, and then you can say, oh, I've done this here. Let's say if it was me in New York, I've done a remediation. I want absolutely to go to UK for personal reason, and I say I've done a remediation in New York. There are some element of remediation in UK. Can I help you to do this? You can propose things like this. It's completely okay. But if you are completely passive, that will never work. We do expect people to say a little bit what they aspire to, even if it's vague.
Okay, so first of all, the people don't know what they want. The second one, here in Romania, the people don't say, look, I want to be a CEO of the company, I want to run the HR department, I want to be a manager for IT. The people don't say that.
But don't visualize it.
Yeah. But you know, not many people visualize it, and to be open. But it's in a way we have a mechanism that drives this partially. Is that, and it depends on the openness of the dialogue, of course. But we have in our annual review that we do with people, the dialogue we have, there is actually a specific part of this dialogue which forces this question.
Okay.
Do you
encourage?
Do you want to move geographically? Do you want to move functionally? And then what could be the thing you aspire to? So there is actually a mechanism that makes this dialogue happen anyway for everybody in the company.
Okay, young people said, look, come to you and said, I have 23, okay, I enter here to answer the question to the phone or to do something. In how many years I can get a promotion? Or in Romanian, can I take the position of CEO, or the CEO always will come from the headquarters? Because a lot of people said, look, the position I can take this one, and there the road is stopped.
So actually we have a good example on this. So it does happen. If you look at the top management of the group worldwide, you had historically many French.
Many.
That's true. A long time ago. More and more, it's not true anymore. If you take the India center, which is very large, it's 10,000 people. It's the biggest share center in the group.
10,000.
10,000, yeah.
Okay, in Romanian is 2,300.
2,300.
Okay, 300.
So Sunil, who is actually the head of both, by the way, so it's 12,300 people, is from India. So it is happening. And Sunil, how he came from another company, and he started in the IT for the investment bank, and he developed, and he was deputy CEO and then CEO.
Okay, Ioana.
I was wondering, how do you find the talents from Romania? I'm referring to the employees. How competitive is our market comparing it to the other ones? you have experience on, and how many people do you plan to hire in the next period of time, and maybe how do you find the best person to suit your organization? What do you appreciate most in an employee? There are more questions because my colleague had all the questions until now.
Yes. So in the Romanian market, I would say now it's a more organic growth. We are not coming from nowhere in a way. We have established a company 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I will put India aside because India is the biggest pool of IT talent in the world by far. I mean, there's China too, but China is less accessible for the reason we know. English-speaking, open country, etc. So, if we accept India, for the rest of the countries, actually, there is two things. Romania was in Europe. The origin was based on Europe and French language. That was the origin of the company. Now we are doing things which are not based on French. We do, of course, do things in French language, but not only. We do IT, we do things in English, in other languages. So today, it's not. We are not entering in this market. We are a place where we have established activities, and we want to develop these activities further. And I will say how. The very beginning was this plus cost arbitrage, and it was the same for India. India was 20 years ago, so it's 10 years before this one. It was cost arbitrage. That was the beginning of the story. So ex-Europe or in Europe for Romania. And then we move away from this to delivery excellence, i.e. basically beating what was done onshore in terms of quality. And today we are more in a journey of transformation. Is how our centers have an impact on the whole group to accelerate its transformation. Digital, of course, but not only. As you know, banks transform deeply, and it's a speed race in a way. And these centers are actually a wonderful asset to do this transformation faster. For also a specific reason, beside the quality of people, the story, is that we have, if we take the two centers together, we work with nearly, I was mentioning Romania before, but if we take India too, we work with nearly all the business unit and support unit of the group, which gives us also the possibility to step back and to extract best practices that are far more difficult to extract when you are sitting in Paris, let's say, because your own entity will work to a certain extent, not totally of course, but more in silo with their neighbors doing something completely different. They will not obviously talk to each other that much, whereas here, because of our structure, it's something we can do a lot, sharing what we do in different business lines of the group.
Mm-hmm. And what do you appreciate most in an employee? Probably when you are put in a situation of offering a promotion, for example. What do you look at specifically?
It's a bit a summary of what I've said before. It's people who are and what I just said on the transformation. We need people who are capable to have an impact. And an impact means a certain element of transformation or acceleration. So basically, with what I've mentioned, acceptance of risk, etc., and being deliberate and disciplined, etc., people who really want say, oh, we are doing this today, maybe we could change it a little bit and do something which is better, could be better with the client, better in terms of cost, but in terms of whatever, I mean, reliability, etc. So really this, the capacity to, so it can be by innovation, it can be by process transformation, it can be, it doesn't really matter actually. It can be because of a technical, breakthrough, but to transform.
Mm-hmm. And
just to finish, and we are capable to draw people into this, because if you have great ideas but you are incapable basically to bring people together to execute this and to move forward, you are far less impacted. There's this capacity to bring people to do it, and also to bring people to give you actually the mandate to do it. It's on both sides, I would say, the consumer and the people executing it with you. You need to generate a double appetite in them.
And do you think that you are born with this type of qualities, or can you train them?
You can train to a certain extent. You are not born with all this, of course, because you evolve in a company, and but it's the element that I mentioned of curiosity, of taking a little risk, being a little adventurous. It needs to be a little bit in you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to be, let's say, in hierarchy of Societe Generale,
yeah.
Okay, it is better to work here and go outside, and after that, after you take some outside position, to come here to be a boss?
When you mean to go outside of the group?
Of the group, of
the group, yeah. It both work.
Okay.
Actually, you, for example, me, I've changed every 3 years within the group.
Okay.
I could have gone, varying if there was still alive.
And go to ING after that.
And learn something different and come back in the group. Yeah.
In 2008, when was the crash and the Lehman Brothers and the subprime, where were you?
I was in Paris.
In Paris?
Yes.
And what was?
I was at the head of the IT for. Actually, it was a very intense time. I was at the head of IT of fixed income, and we were working.
It was a crash, yeah.
It was exactly, and actually I remember this very vividly because we were calculating CDOs and actually because of the variation. We are lacking power, computing power to recalculate everything every night. So we were adding tons of, blade of computers, etc. So it was completely crazy from that perspective. It was very intense, but actually once in a life.
You survived.
Yes,
and where were you when there was the incident in Societe with the Cavier?
I was. It was the same.
The same position.
The same position, actually, and I remember also this very vividly because the head of IT for equity called me and said, "Philippe, you should look because something happened. I think it's big, and you should look if it can happen also in your world of fixed income." It was on Delta One the issue. And after, of course, we had everything, investigation, internal, external, so it was a crazy time.
Okay. After your experience in IT, how comes that you don't leave the banking system and go to work for the new startup in technologies? Do you have the opportunity? Do you...
No.
Do you regret that?
No, not that I don't like startup. Actually, my wife has the company, and she has a publishing house in Thailand, so she is an entrepreneur. So I'm completely in. I like it too. It's just that today. rather than having. I enjoy what I do. I mean, this contact with people. It's something completely different. Yes, of course, having your own company, doing something, and I see it with my wife. It's absolutely fascinating. At the same, but we leave it a little bit together at home already from that perspective. And for me, I do enjoy the human interaction that I have in that position.
So you enjoy to be a boss?
Not to be a boss, because for me a boss, being the boss, CEO, etc., you just create an environment or maintain an environment for people to perform. In a way, you are not doing, you are not producing yourself.
Okay.
So it's you will not have this thrill of I've developed this and yes we are making money, or yes we have but not a personal one. But at the same time, what I do personally is to try to have an environment where people will do this.
So you feel better to, let's say, to make a good environment to people, okay, to run this this business more than to be an entrepreneur. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be selfish, to be a leader, to be a visionary, and to take all the people with you, like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not a very good person.
Yeah, no, for me it's the same.
It's
What I'm just saying is that being like in a startup, when I was writing code to do arbitrage on GGB,
yeah.
I could have been in a small company doing this for a bank or not, and the spirit of this was completely entrepreneurial. We are doing this, we're making money the day after, we're happy, and we continue.
Yeah.
So, no, on the contrary, I think it's very much the same thing. It's just that at some stage, you're going to have people younger, faster, who will do this. And if I personally create an environment where they can do this well, that for me it's still being an entrepreneur.
Okay. In this position, to come from India to here in Bucharest, you said, I know Bucharest, I know the center from here. When you move to another position, it's about the position or it's about the money? Or it's about the project? When you look at the, first of all, you look at the project, and second, the money, and the third, where will be the headquarter?
The project first.
The project first.
Yes.
Okay. So you look at
no hesitation. Yeah.
No project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second one.
Second, the money. I mean, it's not differentiating today.
Okay.
I have enough money to live correctly.
Okay.
I don't aspire to be rich.
Okay.
And I have enough money to do what I like on a daily basis. So money is not a factor anymore.
So in your case, first of all, it's about the project.
Yes.
It's about the project to build a new one, or to take a project built by another person and to try to develop.
I prefer a new one.
New one.
Yes.
But in Romania, it's not new one.
Yes and no. We are doing new things or things differently.
Okay.
What motivated you to accept the role in Romania? Or let me put it this way, did you visualize this role? Did you said that you want to come back in Europe?
The people ask, look, to leave Hong Kong or another big market to come here in Romania at the end of the Europe?
I don't think it's the end of the Europe at all, first.
It's the middle, actually.
No. I think we do, so two things. And you say also the role. I'll come back to the role. Because to have an impact, the role is a lever. So the role per se is, okay, want to be this, okay, nice, but sometimes you need to have the role to have an impact.
Okay.
So for me, being the CEO here is not, I'm not happy because I'm the CEO. I'm happy because I have in my hands lever to change this company here, to make it evolve. In that evolution is what I was mentioning more generally for the two centers is, once again, we did delivery of processes, IT, etc. And today we start to have an influence and an impact on the transformation, to be able to propose new way of doing things, new way of automating, new way of using data, artificial intelligence, etc. And that's what I find interesting.
Okay.
This phase.
You have the opportunity to look at this subject here in Romanian?
Yes.
Okay. For Romanian, for Societe, because this center is not the bank.
Yeah.
Bank is good. Okay.
Yeah.
It's important, this center. What in this center, what kind of things can you develop and to export to another market where Societe is there?
Oh, we do it. For example, most of the IT for equity, which is not done in France, is a good part is done here.
It's done here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do the IT for the equity.
Yeah.
You calculate the risk, the delta.
We do a certain number of things, but pretty sophisticated for the IT, for the equity, for I would say for different European market, for London, for yeah.
And how comes in Romanian? We are good in mathematics or what? In IT or?
No, I mean, it's right. It's a good question. At the origin, I think it was by chance.
By chance?
It was that we had the right person, who was there and who developed it. Now, because we are numerous, it's not anymore by chance. We are leveraging on something existing. But if you ask, there was, compared to India, in India we have 4,500 people who work for the corporate and investment bank. So it would have been very logical to put everything in India. At some stage, because of having the right guy, who was Romanian and French, and also wanting from the traders, etc., to have a certain proximity in terms of time, being able to interact during the day, etc., it started here, this specific activity. But once again, not chance. It was in Europe. It was in the same, time frame. It was, and we had the right person. So we had these ingredients. Could we have these ingredients elsewhere? Yes, probably. But it happened there.
Okay.
Looking back to your entire career, what would you say is your best accomplishment?
The thing I mentioned on the audit is to have remediated the audit function in Americas. Yeah.
In America.
Yeah. In
okay, it was the best.
It was extremely. Actually, I underevaluated the difficulty of this exercise because and something I learned is with Fed basically, if you are not at the level that they want to see things happening, they don't ask you to be at this level when you remediate. They ask you to be best in class. And that's very painful. That's very, very painful because it takes an energy and money. And it's something I underevaluated because I saw more or less I was in audit, so I had an idea of what we should do or not, etc. What I didn't evaluate it is I didn't want it to meet what would have been good 5 years ago, but to be top-notch because we were bad. It's a punishment, let's face it. You've been under, so you're going to be best in class, more or less, because it's a kind of punishment. Let's leave it that way.
Okay. You stay here, you have a mandate for how many years? 3 years, yeah?
The default, yeah. It doesn't mean it can be longer.
Okay. What do you want to accomplish here after your mandate, the people remember to you in what way?
So first, achieving the business goal, which is, and I will come to the people after, but achieving this business goal, and that I mentioned on the transformation, the impact, etc. But at the same time, this being a lever for their own career to develop further and to develop also elsewhere, potentially, but elsewhere can be functional and geographical, it doesn't matter. But to basically do this transformation together and develop further this quality that we have discussed previously on people who are able to transform, who are able to impact things, so that they do it more at a larger scale, and these people after have a future in the whole group, not only here but for the whole group.
The last question, Ioana?
The last is difficult.
Okay, or two
the
more
second
questions.
last, okay.
The second last? Okay.
Yeah. How do you visualize this future of the entire banking and fintech industry? How technologized will be? Yeah.
For the future, do you want to be in a bank or in a fintech?
It's an interesting question because it's not. There's not completely such a dichotomy, because I actually fintech are working with bank as well. Banks are working with startups, and banks are also creating startup and fintech. So it's mixed. I mean, there is a. It's obvious. How will be the future of bank? I don't know. I will be open. We can have an idea of the current transformation, but where it will go for areas where, for example, if we take corporate and investment banking, one of the things we do is to help, for example, our customer to do their to accelerate or to support their own environmental, for example, transformation. This, yeah, we can see it a little longer, etc. For the other thing, it's transforming so much currently, so seeing, the future would be like looking in a crystal ball. I mean, it will change dramatically. Mm-hmm. And we are trying to be part of this change positively. But once again, I don't see, it could be in both, but I don't see an opposition between the two.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the second last question?
And you have mentioned that it's important for a person to be curious, and I think this is the case for a leader too. How do you continue to develop and grow as a leader?
By being curious. You have answered yourself to a certain extent. No, I try never to lose this curiosity. Because you never assuming, and trying to, you see something, and I try to avoid, I've seen it. And
okay.
I try to completely not be like this, and say, something is happening, you can reflect, you can react, etc., but to keep that curiosity intact, or to develop it further in a way.
Okay, what is your mission for, let's say, 1,653 people who watch to you right now? Your last message.
Well, my last message is, I think on this altar, we are living something, I will come back to something human, actually, because we have talked actually quite a lot
human
about
discipline now. It's a contradiction.
No, not discipline at all. No. I think with the COVID thing, the work from home, the distance or from anywhere, the thing I would like to see staying is that in that period we have seen more empathy. We have seen more people helping each other. We have seen more people reflecting on their life. You know, I'm doing this work, and we see a change in the market globally. Maybe I should do something differently, or I should do it somewhere else.
When you reflect to your what you do, in the end you resign.
Yeah, no, not always. Not always. I think there is an interesting point for me in all this, is that there has been a more personal reflection on life. And a change where people, yes, they want to do things at work, they want to earn money, etc. But at the same time, they want to do something which is meaningful, and many have stepped back and searched a little bit for this meaning, what was meaningful for them. Can be different thing. It can be, okay, I don't want to work, like I said in the beginning, in the weaponry industry. It's something I don't like. I don't do it, I stop, for example. Or I don't want to work for a company who doesn't care about environment. And people do take this into consideration most often now. So I think let's not forget, there was a pain in this period, but also a magical moment where people reflected a little bit on life and the meaning of life. And just this for me is very precious, and we should keep it alive.
Okay, and the last question, at the end of the interview, you have to put a title for your story. What will be your title?
Title
in 4
for my
words.
story.
Your title about your career.
A journey of curiosity.
A journey of curiosity. Okay.
It's a good title.
Yeah, good title.
I like it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation at the Meet the CEO. Ioana?
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to hear you, and I'm sure we and most of the people who watched us took a lot of advice from your story, and would try to
You invite
apply.
us in Hong Kong after the COVID period.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Mulțumesc, Cristian Hostiuc. Vă mulțumim și dumneavoastră, celor care ați urmărit de această dată evenimentul Meet the CEO pe care l-am avut cu Philippe Gabulon, director general al Societe Generale Global Solution Center în România. Vă mulțumim încă o dată, numai bine tuturor! Director general al Societe Generale Global Solution Center în România. Vă mulțumim încă o dată, numai